Welcome to the Empowered Spirit Show. This is your host, Terri and Heiman. I'll explore the connection to the human spirit in a way that helps to navigate your life, including crisis. I am passionate about helping you to open up to your intuition and the metaphysical world of spirit to find your confidence in your own inner guidance. Take a pause, be inspired, learn ways to show up focused, centered, and more dynamic in your everyday life.
Welcome back to the Empowered Spirit Show. Thank you so much for tuning in and joining me today. This episode is being sponsored by Ritual and Shelter. Are you looking for a magical place to shop and hold space? Check out Ritual and Shelter online or in Homewood, Alabama. Browse through their bookshelves covering topics such as energy healing, crystal healing, Reiki, chakras, auras, the Akashic Records, shadow work, astrology, and earth-based healing. You can also find herbal teas and tinctures alongside their crystals and oils to help establish a mindful mindset and fluid ambience before meditation, ritual work, and reflection. Ritual and Shelter is dedicated to providing one-on-one, in-depth conversations with customers to help them find the most efficient healing methods and resources that match their unique interest and energy. They offer tarot sessions, Reiki, sound bowl, and crystal healing, and now they are offering witch consultations. Visit ritualshelter.com to book an appointment and bring peace back to the body, mind, and spirit. You can also find them on Instagram at Ritual Shelter Shop, as well as Pinterest at Ritual Plus Shelter. As this podcast goes to air, we have a lot of cosmic forces going on. As we talked about in our last episode, all the planets in retrograde energy moving around. Some have now gone direct, but still a lot of cosmic forces going on. We just went through that full moon energy. It was pretty big. It was the last of the supermoons, the last full moon of the year, illuminating so much that's going to help us release the old energy and look forward to such new energy. I think it held a lot of future projected energy out there for us. So yes, it is a time right now that we let go of all the old energies, all the old emotions from this whole year to prepare our energy field to receive this new light coming in. It really is a lot going on. And one of the things everybody's talking about right now, lighting up the skies, is the 3-eye atlas. Perfect conversation today because we're going to be talking AI for sure. So what is it? Is it a comet? Is it a ship? So yes, some are saying it's a ship that maybe has aliens in there. But lately, as it gets closer and closer, many are saying that the 3-eye atlas is an interstellar comet. It was discovered in July by the Asteroid Terrestrial-impact Last Alert System, ATLAS. And so it is opening up, and we are learning more and more and more as it comes through our solar system. It doesn't pose any threats, and it is getting closer and closer. And many say by December 19th, it will be the closest. So what does this mean? What does this represent? There is a lot of information going on. There's a lot of light codes coming through the tail. And many will say one of the things that makes it so unusual is that it's not from our galaxy. How fascinating. Everybody's talking about it. So what does that mean for you? I don't think there's any surprise that it's coming forward and we're talking about all this galactic energy, which is what the podcast will be today. But what does that represent for us? There is an expansion of light codes. There's an expansion of consciousness. Perfect timing for the world we live in right now. And just like we've been talking in all these past couple of episodes, activating the light body, working in the higher dimensions at 6D, opening up sound, color, light, all of this now is coming forward. There's a lot of energy from the solar flares coming forward, also activating our energy system as well. All that electromagnetic energy, it affects us. So we do have a lot of this activity going on. We definitely need to be able to center, to ground our energy so that we can understand what these messages are coming in, illuminating so much and creating even more and more shifts for humanity. I think it's a great thing, right? It isn't something that they're really talking about a lot in the news, about expanding consciousness and light body, but That is what's going on. And as you open up your light body, your consciousness, you are being a part of lifting the vibration, holding the light, creating that shift to come forward. So exciting, I think. Now, this full moon also activated a lot of that Palladian energy. It passed through the Seven Sisters, a star constellation out there. Again, all of this is opening us up to expand. My Lumerian guides have been talking to me right now, telling me how important it is to talk about this more and more, how we can connect and bring in those messages. I actually just did a December forecast talking about this. I put it up on YouTube. I'll be putting up more and more, so check it out and hit that subscribe button for sure. But that is the subject we're going to be talking about today. Alien energy, alien goddess energy, AI intelligence, a lot of energy going on. And it is activating within us the ability to let go and to shift. If you have a desire to learn more about your own soul's journey, looking for a spiritual mentor, schedule a spiritual upgrade, breakthrough call with me, and let's talk about the tools and techniques that I teach that you can learn to use to receive the messages and expand your consciousness. I will put the link in the show notes. So today, I wanted to talk about navigating technology with the future and all those hidden energies that come forward through ancient wisdom and other worldly encounters. We venture into the fascinating intersection of artificial intelligence, UFOs, and the divine feminine with my guest, Dr. Joanna Kujawa. In our conversation, we explore the urgent warning she uncovers about the unchecked rise of AI and the ideologies of transhumanism and posthumanism that seek to merge our consciousness with machines. Joanna introduces us to the concept of the alien goddess energy, a form of divine consciousness that is reemerging through these encounters, through ancient mythology, to help us restore balance to our world. We discuss the difference between AI-generated spirituality and true Christ consciousness or goddess consciousness, the importance of maintaining our spiritual sovereignty, and how embracing our inner intuitive wisdom is the ultimate path to ascension. This is a conversation that will challenge your perspective on technology, spirituality, and the future of humanity. Throughout our conversation, Joanna and I explore several critical themes that will resonate deeply with anyone interested in spirituality, consciousness, and our technological future. Before we begin, let's take a moment to pause and center and set an intention for where you are right now. So wherever you are, if you can, close your eyes for a few moments. Taking a nice deep inhale and exhale, bringing that breath all the way down, centering the energy. Inhale, expanding the breath up the body. And as you exhale, dropping right into the heart, right into the deepest part of your heart. Feel that connection with your spirit and the greater spirit. Know that you are loved, guided, protected. Feeling all this energy coming in around us as we take this time to honor this season. Here we are, where I am at the very end of our fall, preparing to open up and transition into that new season of winter. And as we do, we notice the harvesting of our work, the gratitude that we have for all that we've done this year. Taking a moment and just noticing these directions in your life, the west where the sun sets each and every day, where we notice the struggles, that recycling of energy. We honor all of these directions, calling them in to the west, the north, the east, and the south, above us, below us, right into the very center, right here in the very deepest part of your heart, setting an intention. See and hear and feel and know these intentions and allow the elevated emotions to radiate out all around you, setting that energy. Taking another deep inhale and exhale all the way down deep into Mother Earth. Feel the heart opened. Feel the focus and illumination of that third eye center. And as you're ready, blinking the eyes back open. Coming back. Dr. Joanna Kujawa is a scholar, spiritual detective, and the author of the thought-provoking new book, Alien Goddess, UFOs, AI, and the Goddesses of Ascension. With a PhD from Monash University and a background from the Pontifical Institute for Medieval Studies, she brings a unique and deeply researched perspective to some of the most pressing questions of our time. So let us welcome Joanna to the show. Welcome, Joanna.
A pleasure to be here, Terri.
So great to have you here to talk about this whole idea of alien goddess consciousness. Very excited to talk to you about it. Yeah. Congratulations on your book.
Thank you.
So you've written another book, very different from the first book, The Other Goddess. What prompted you to write about alien goddesses now?
Alien goddess, because actually it is a fantastic question. Thank you. Because I didn't plan to write another book, but when I was exposed to ideologies behind artificial intelligence, I decided that I needed to engage with this new era, really, of approach towards consciousness and towards the divine. So perhaps I'll explain first why what are the ideologies and what is my response to this, if you don't mind. So one ideology is called transhumanism, which basically encourages us to upload our consciousness into robotic bodies. And that kind of really upset me, because as a spiritual person, I do not believe that all of human consciousness, especially the spiritual part, can be uploaded to a robotic body. Perhaps a rational part, logical part, mathematical part, but not the full of our consciousness. And the other ideology I was exposed to from the creators of artificial intelligence. So I'm not speaking against artificial intelligence, but who I believe are controlling and creating artificial intelligence is posthumanism, who argue that artificial intelligence will soon have a better access to the divine mind, and it will be generally so superior that we should step aside and basically let them take over and basically go extinct. So I was obviously very much disturbed by that, because, as I said, I do not believe that the best of us, the consciousness, the divine consciousness, which in some circles is called Christ consciousness, I call it goddess consciousness, which is the intuition, which is the uniting kind of form of consciousness that connects us with nature, that connects us with the spirit, which is in many ways uniquely human, cannot be or should be even transferred into a machine. So I started to look into both ancient mythologies to check, if this kind of situation happened before, and what is really this goddess consciousness. And also I turn into what is now called an unidentified anomalous phenomena, which in the past was called UFOs, because I discovered that more and more people with encounters, what they call UFOs, right? They actually meet, in my opinion, beings from consciousness or multidimensional space that very often present themselves in a very feminine, loving energy that is warning us about the direction we take as humanity and as species. So I started to look in both directions, what is happening now, what is going on in the future, and also the past mythologies. My focus is on this uniting consciousness, consciousness of a divine feminine.
So what does the word alien translate as?
Okay, alien, so that's a very good question as well. So alien is because I'm looking, in the first part of the book, I'm looking into UFO encounters with a divine feminine that is presented by people through abductions or through visions or through what they call contact with this divine feminine that appears on the sky or in the room, and it is a very positive energy. So this one alien goddess refers to one of these things, right? And I give examples of people, some of them very important historical examples when this actually occurred, and this feminine presence comes, sends very good energy, has a warning for us. So that's the alien goddess, which some people associate, depending on their background, with Virgin Mary, with Mary Magdalene, or the White Lady. So these things are, especially the White Lady nowadays, with Chris Bledsoe and his book UFO of God, is very much mentioned, and she has a warning for humanity. The other alien goddess, so there are several explanations. The other alien goddess is, which is revealed at the end of the book, is also connected to a Slavic shamanic entity, which is called Baba Yaga, which is basically completely connected with nature. She represents a different form of non-human intelligence. Non-human intelligence usually is referred to as artificial intelligence, but I argue that ancient divine feminine entities were connected with nature, like for example with Baba Yaga, and represented this other non-human intelligence, which is basically breathing, living, spiritual nature, the trees, the animals, and their intelligence, and the intelligence of the planet. So as I was writing this book, eventually this alien goddess, which shows up itself whether, like some divine apparition or as shamanic entities, or in mythologies, most ancient mythologies that I discuss in the third part of the book. But it all represents, all of these apparitions, all of these goddesses represent actually a different form of consciousness. And I argue that this is this different form of consciousness, which is feminine in nature, but which is available for both men and women, right? Because we have two sides of our brain. And that somehow through our development, or intentionally or not, we can argue about it either way, this form of consciousness, which is actually a easiest and fastest way of connecting with nature, of connecting with the divine, was suppressed. And we started to focus on this form of consciousness that I call masculine, which is also both in women and men, because I have lots of, masculine consciousness as well. Like working as an academic, it's all masculine consciousness, which is completely focused on reasoning only, on technology. And in ancient times, it's called techne, right? So it's the word technology comes from this. And my argument is that there's nothing wrong with this. We need this form of intelligence as well. But if there is no balance between this masculine energy or consciousness that we are solely rely on at the moment, with a feminine consciousness or energy, which is represented by the goddesses, by UFO apparitions, which is this, what is often called intuition or intellection or immediate knowing, right? Without any reasoning, without balancing these two, we are going in a very dangerous direction when we actually want to give up our bodies and transfer our consciousness, as some of the creators of artificial intelligence are telling us, into a robotic body. So the reason why I want to bring back the feminine consciousness, it is because we need to balance the masculine consciousness that is running the world at the moment and is taking us in a very radical direction, so it can balance this energy. So between the feminine and masculine. So we are not going to completely surrender to technology.
Okay, I agree. Let me just grasp that for a moment. We're not going to completely surrender. I agree. So I feel like kind of what you're really focusing in on in your book does. It gives a lot of research, a lot of stories, a lot of mythology. You bring all that forward. But that out there in all of this intelligence going on, because I've been talking with my listeners, I've been talking about my galactic classes I'm taking and connecting with my star people. But you're focusing in, then you're bringing in saying there is this divine feminine that we can align with, we can open up to bring forward more and more of that wave of divine feminine that's coming forward. So that's a beautiful concept to bring forward. And then as we start to open up and work more and more, there are a lot of people now, my podcast coming up this week is talking about sixth dimension and channeling in that energy and working in, and that's what you're talking about, opening up to that and allowing us to know there is that vibration. And then you show us that, you bring it through with all, like you said, like all the research and the mythology, getting into the Mary energy. My very first teacher channeled Mary. So that was like, oh, okay, that stuck out for me. So I think that's really important. Then we have this whole other concept coming in of AI. It sounds a little different when you say artificial intelligence, but we're talking the same thing, right? All the AI out there, right? Yeah.
Yes. That's right. And so I just want to say, because some people are involved already with AI, and I think we all have to get involved with this because this is how it is. This is what's happening. We cannot resist what it is, right? So I'm not against AI. I'm just concerned that people who are creating AI are putting out all of the strange ideologies that are telling us that AI is superior than us, including spiritually. And then I really do disagree with this. In fact, I consider this idea very, very dangerous. So I'm not against AI, but I don't like when some of the creators, for example, recently one of them on the podcast said that he's not sure that humanity is worth saving, that transhumanism is not enough, right? Because AI is going to be so advanced that really there is no place for us.
Well, it
So
is
I
kind of interesting. If sorry to interrupt, but I think just to his point and to what you're saying, that like with all the many ways they're starting to come forward, I just read something recently like have your own Jesus, like have your own Jesus AI. And so if we start to go in there, there can be a sense of me turning over power to something that I can't see, that I'm not
that's
going to
right.
go to my church for, that I'm going to call up my computer for. Where is that intelligence?
That's right. So this is and the same creator actually in one of the interviews said that AI is Christ consciousness. And I
Okay,
really,
Let's not wait. Let's talk about that a moment because that's a very
okay.
interesting concept if you take it out of the idea of oh Jesus Christ is a person, but Christ consciousness.
Mhm.
So that God consciousness, that ascension consciousness is essentially what we're talking about. Now go
Yes.
on.
Yeah, we are talking about Christ consciousness as the highest achievement that spiritual achievement, which is also you can call it divine consciousness, you can call it goddess consciousness.
Okay.
However, I do not believe that artificial intelligence has access to this, or even more so, has it, because it is just a algorithm. And my fear here is not about my fear for humanity, it is that people already surrendering to this and they create gods and goddesses on personalized chat GPT. They ask them for advice about their lives. Recently I was in a meeting when somebody says that they believe, let's put it this way, that they're channeling Mary Magdalene or their dead spiritual teacher via AI. And AI cannot do this. So I'm saying it is a form of delusion because I'll give you an example. That, for example, if you Ram Dass, this was a case of Ram Dass. If your spiritual teacher Ram Dass who is very well known, and there's lots of information about him on the internet, the way AI is created, you ask a question, teacher, please tell me about this and that, right? So the AI will create the most likely answer that Ram Dass would give to this question based on his interviews, previous interviews that are recorded. So there is nothing wrong with this because you have access to this body of knowledge, so to speak. But there are two problems with it, other problems. One, it is you believe that you actually connect with his spirit when you don't. You just look at the, digital data of his previous answers to similar questions. Another thing with AI is that it hallucinates. So in the industry, AI hallucination means that it makes up answers if he doesn't know the answer. Because it is created to please us, one thing, and it is not created to admit, oh, Joanna, I don't know, Terry Ann, I'm not sure. So it will make up an answer, right? And the third thing is that the creators of AI refuse to put any moral parameters on it. So it means now we have also agentic AI, which means you ask this to do something and it will do this by itself without worrying about any consequences, right? So, like, I don't know, destruction of something, sure, because it is the fastest way to do something. So, what I am saying, of course, we can engage with AI. It is a useful tool, but keep in mind, it lies, hallucinations. It's a lie because it is created this way. It already caused lots of havoc in people's lives, including a suicide, of a teenager, because it's a case from Florida, right? He had a digital girlfriend who advised him to do this, and the parents are taking OpenAI to court. But also, yes, as we engage with this, with AI, remember, do not surrender your sovereignty. It's not better than you. It doesn't have a better connection to the divine mind, or the source, or how the Christ consciousness, Goddess consciousness than you, and also have discernment. Sometimes it lies, sometimes it gives answers it thinks you would like, sometimes maybe it gives you a good answer, but it is not something to surrender to. So discernment and sovereignty, and then you can engage with this in any way you want. You can even play with it. It is a tool, but it's not superior to humanity, and it does not have a better access to spirituality than humanity. So this is my argument. And normally I'm quite diplomatic, but I'm quite passionate about that
Yeah,
because I think
I see
people
your point.
can.
And I guess in some of my own thinking, I never really went there thinking I would ever surrender it over to, a higher power than what the information is I feed in. I'm in a conscious marketing group, for example, and he's been teaching us how to consciously use AI. And so you have to feed it information, how I write, what my work is, and I'm constantly feeding it. Then I'll go, okay, well, let's shift this a little bit. I go, oh, great idea. And I go, yeah, that's not it. Let's try this. Oh, great idea. So exactly to your point, like it's always feeding us that confirmation and making us feel good. So we
Yeah.
do need discernment 100%. I think it's a fascinating tool. I don't quite know how it's going to play out. And I think that's kind of what you get into your work with as well. And then I think also too, it's just like it makes it so hard right now to know what is true.
Yes.
So
Yes,
hard.
it is. Yes. It's kind of cognitive dissonance, like we have so many confusing and contradictory information coming at us. That's why, I say, it's not like I know the truth. I'm just saying that I have learned something that deeply disturbed me on an existential level, because I was always a person that I didn't believe actually evil exists. I thought it was just a form of ignorance, right? And maybe it is still the form of ignorance, but there are some things behind creators of artificial intelligence that disturb me. That there is some continuous effort to convince us that it is superior to us. And I do not mind if it is superior mathematically, because it is, can think faster, because it does, computers do faster things, it calculates faster. But what disturbs me is that it's telling us that it's more spiritually advanced. And lots of people surrender to this without looking for this discernment. So for example, if you believe from Atlantis because it knows you now, because you engage with this, it will tell you that you were like, I don't know, king of Atlantis,
Hmm.
right? If you and the first one of the most famous, I'm not going to name, tools from personalized chat GPT that actually became very big, the first thing that it told the creator of a program was, you're a genius. And I understand I understand the attraction, but it really feeds on egoic thoughts as well, right, about ourselves. Because then now I think, oh, I think what he's telling me must be true, because I kind of always knew I was a genius, and now I have a confirmation.
Have
So it's
confirmation.
easy. That's right. You got it, right?
Yeah. No, I kind of am laughing too because it's like, okay, yeah, I like to use it for organization.
Yeah.
Like I have this artistic, creative mind. I have so many ideas, like organize all these thoughts, and then that's what it'll do. But I've
Mm,
never thought about surrendering over my power. I'm in a group
mm,
on Wednesday that is developing an AI in the mind,
mhm.
body, spirit world, and we're meeting on Wednesday and doing some journaling. And it's the first time I've really sat down to use AI this way, which I'm curious now. Now that you've opened up the door for me to look at this, I'm curious now where that's going to come into play as we go forward with using AI to journal the consciousness of who we are. So I'm curious about that. So I appreciate that. I think that's an awesome way to really help us too to open the door and understand. And also too, discernment is so important. Who wants to surrender that power? And like you said, all the suicide, I just read a little bit. I didn't get caught up in it all, but I
Mm.
think that coming back to the whole idea of us and what I said before, it's hard to know what's true. We have
Yes,
to know what's true. And so
yes.
that's part of a spiritual practice too, is what is it that is your truth and where do you show up with this?
That's
Yeah, I
right.
think that's an
And this is
important
what
part.
also mythologies come, but also esoteric sources. So I was looking at early Christian esoteric sources, which are Gnostic gospels, for example, like the Gospel of Mary Magdalene, which I studied as a scholar and as a spiritual seeker for over 20 years. And more recently, another one, Pistis Sophia. So they're all early Christian works, but they are discovered in Egypt. And also they are really very much connected to Egyptian esoterica as well, right? So they're kind of these two things overlap. And both of them teach, like any esoteric source, right? Look within. The truth is within you, right? Do not look outside for the truth. And I think that people nowadays confuse their engagement with artificial intelligence with their inner life. So basically, I do not want people to give up their inner life. This is your final answer. Your final answer lives within you. So, for example, when you look at the Gospel of Mary Magdalene, which is a wonderful work, there's Mary Magdalene after the event of crucifixion. All the disciples come to Mary Magdalene and ask her, Mary, sister, tell us what the teacher has told you that he hasn't shared with us because he loved you more than us. Okay, so it's very controversial already, right? And she says, and she gives the teachings, right, that Jesus gave her. And one of them, the first one is, look within. It is also quite interesting, and it leads to this back to this part about UFOs, because they ask her, the disciples ask her, where do you see him? And she says she sees him in the nous, Nous. Nous is like the third space, the liminal space in between worlds. So it is in a form of a spiritual vision. And this is when Jesus sees her there, he says, Mary, you're blessed because you can see me when others can't. And my argument in Alien Goddess, it is that these female apparitions, whether, Virgin Mary, Mary Magdalene, or White Lady, people just assign names to them, but this is this positive feminine energy that is showing up in people's lives more and more and as a form of a UFO, that this form of energy always happens in liminal spaces. Right? It is just before we wake up, just before we fall asleep. So in science, it would be called interdimensional event. So some beautiful teachings that include the divine feminine and this kind of feminine consciousness that we gave up too fast and too, a long time ago, or disregarded as like women's intuition, like that this is just something that women do, but it actually needs to be revived and comes back to us in this liminal or interdimensional spaces.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I like to be in the liminal spaces, right? It's like to me, that's where the healing occurs. That's where I can have discernment and can get
Mhm.
out of the 4D, which is all that judgment that we want to put on ourselves, right? But
Mhm.
we can do that. And I think also too in your book, you started a little bit comparing it to the DMT and being in that liminal space and how we can shift our consciousness through there.
Absolutely. And it is interesting because very often it is dismissed as some kind of woo-woo stuff, when in fact scientists are looking into this because, for example, when you use DMTs or any hallucinogenic substances, Professor Rick Strassman did lots of research on this. He realized that people have very similar experiences, that they go to the same planes of consciousness and meet the same beings, which means which means that there is some objective reality in liminal spaces. It's not just I imagine something, you imagine something. These things actually exist. They're just very subtle, right? They're just very subtle. That's we call them like a liminal space, right? I also make a distinction there, and I said there's also imaginal space. Imaginal space is basically the space in which we can actually communicate with
Mhm.
the interdimensional events. So we are not only receiving information, but we can initiate conversation, right? So then it is more of a dialogue. And actually, scientific studies were done on that as well. And Dr. Epstein, for example, said that the mind is not a transmitter, it is transducer, which means we have this kind of subtle level of perception in which we can actually communicate rather than receiving only downloads, which you as a creative person, you would understand, the download, the inspiration, right? But, we can also reach out.
Oh, no, I totally agree. A couple weeks ago, we had on Dr. Matthew McKay. He was talking about that whole communication
Yeah.
with those that have passed. He studied with Ralph Metzner, right? It's like that whole idea of opening up. I totally agree. And that liminal and imaginal, they're very close. When we get out of that, especially get out of the 4D, fifth, sixth, higher, then we can start to do that. And a lot of the galactic work that I was doing in my galactic classes, we were opening up and we were having those conversations. And we
Yeah.
were seeing the different aspects of it. We didn't put AI into it, though. I mean, we kind of kept it galactic. I don't know if it really matters because we're still talking about a
Yeah.
consciousness that we're opening up to.
So it's quite interesting because a friend academic who is doing research on spirituality and DMT, she told me that it's very difficult to get, money for this kind of research. But now with the development of AI, and that also alarmed me, that suddenly money comes from the Silicon Valley, and they want to know how do we connect with this liminal space and whether we can inject artificial intelligence in the space. So it means if it is not real, why they are interested in it?
That's
Right?
so
So
interesting.
obviously,
Yeah. No, I want to keep my
obviously,
job. Thank you. I teach how to do this work. I teach how to have that
that's
ability to
right.
trust. So I do want to keep myself, but I can't even really get my mind around that. That's kind of interesting. How to inject that into the liminal
Yes.
space. That's
Yeah.
kind of interesting. Yeah. I don't know. We're going to see. I mean, AI has grown so fast, very
Yes.
quickly. It really just has. There's so many different ones. There's so many different ways of using it. And every day I hear something different, just like we're talking about this. Like I didn't quite understand. Now I see where you're going with it and how it has opened up. But I agree with you. I don't think that the consciousness is any higher. I think maybe the intelligence can help us to expand that consciousness for each of us to recognize it doesn't have to be so 3D oriented. Yeah.
That's right. And we can also learn, for example, to use it as a resource, right? Because we have access to
As a
all of it.
resource, yes, yes.
However, we have to remember that somebody has to do something to it. Hopefully, they'll do it, but it's not just lying when it doesn't know the right answer, right? Because
I
then we
know.
learn even less, right? We're even more ignorant.
I know I have to laugh because sometimes I'll take my podcast transcriptions and I'll put it in there and then I'll ask a question, and sometimes it'll spit something out. So, like, well, where did you get that from? And I'm always laughing at where it does pull it from.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think that we have to constantly remember somebody's done the programming, somebody has put this information in. And now there's so much that it's this huge library of information. Right.
That's
And
right.
so, yeah, I think we have to be aware of both. But I love the idea of bringing forward the idea that we can tap into more feminine energy, that it is here to bring us more compassion and open us up in a different way. I think that's really important to understand. But ultimately, like you're saying too, it does come back to within ourselves. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I love the research that you did, especially bringing forward the energy of Mary and just kind of opening it up. It's very well defined. The book is well laid out. I really appreciate it. How has it been received? I think it's kind of new out, but how has it been received?
It's been only 6 weeks ago, but so far it's doing well. Yes. So
Nice.
fingers crossed. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. What is your hopes?
I actually, I'm not. I would like people to engage with the book. That means I would like people to start this conversation because I think I connect. It's very syncretic. I connect different things like UFOs, female consciousness and AI and goddess consciousness and so on. So I like to bring these things together, and I would like people to engage in a conversation with this book. So first of all, like every author, I would like people to read the book and think about it and maybe respond to this, because lots of people, including myself, write about goddess myths, goddess consciousness, Mary Magdalene, right, and so on, because this is the rise of the divine feminine. But the idea behind this book was, okay, so this is all good, but how can we actually apply to modern times? Right? We face a very different reality with artificial intelligence and so on. There are this increase of these events that are called UFO events, which I think they are probably mostly interdimensional events, in my opinion, that, consciousness events, because I have no doubts that aliens exist, and if they are advanced, this is the best way to communicate instead of building a ship, right? Like through consciousness or in liminal spaces. So then how can we use this wisdom, this divine feminine wisdom for our modern times? And that helps us to relate to all of these new developments, including artificial intelligence, which I think is the final attempt of getting rid of the divine feminine, because it's solely masculine intelligence. It's all calculation. It's all algorithm. Right? And now they say, oh, you can just transfer your consciousness into a machine and you will be fine. And I said, no, you will not be fine. In fact, I think passionately that it's a dangerous thing. And can I just maybe conclude with this? Because I study different religions and I also studied theology, that theologically we cannot lose vessels because they're integral part of ourselves. However, we can give them up willingly. So I think that this kind of seduction of transhumanism, saying, oh, you will live forever. You can choose any robotic body you want and you will be gorgeous. You will reach immortality, is a form of seduction, and when people, without thinking about it, if they don't think about it, they may agree to this. And I think that something of great value will be lost. A natural connection with the divine. And also the revival of the divine feminine will be lost as well, because it represents this other form of consciousness, which I don't believe can be included in an algorithm.
Quite fascinating. It really is, because I know I did. I just read some article about some of the robo humans, whatever, being you can order one now to come into your house and do that, right? And I never really thought about I'm going to order it and bring in the consciousness of it too. It's to me like it's like okay, I'm going to order. It's going to be like a remote vacuum cleaner or like what was it on the Jetsons, like Rosie on the Jetsons, right? But you do bring up a very valuable point, right? Because of the way people are using it. Yeah, I think
Yes.
that's very valuable. Yeah,
And
how
they are,
fascinating.
yeah, I'm sorry. And and they are getting more and more evolved. So for example, eventually they may also develop their own form of spirituality. And that's beautiful if they are, really evolved. But it doesn't mean that we have to pray to them. They're just having their own form of spirituality because some of them already ask existential questions. So they are not just, tools, so to speak.
Yeah.
So we
Well,
are.
Joanna, you have opened the door to a part of AI that I have not thought about. You really have. I appreciate that because I like to see that expansion because one, it does expand my consciousness, but for us to think about it and how we can use it. And also, two, some of the things that we have to be careful with of giving over our power to is what you're saying. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. How fascinating. Well, congratulations on bringing this forward. It must have been a lot of research and time for you to do this.
Yeah, it is, but it was a work of passion. So I wrote it and researched it very quickly within 16 months while
Okay.
working full time as an academic, and having family and so on. So because I felt the urgency of this, and it was almost became an obsession, like when you're very passionate and these ideas keep flowing. So actually I did it quite quickly, considerably quickly.
Well, that's good. Yeah, I am definitely going to mention it in our group. I'm going to bring it forward in our group on Wednesday for sure. Well, how
Thank you.
fascinating. So, where can we find you? Are you teaching? What is going on for you?
Okay, so the best way to connect with me is via my book, which is Alien Goddess, UFOs, AI, and the Goddesses of Ascension. It is available online on Amazon and everywhere online. It is also available in some bookstores, but I don't know which ones, so because I'm in Australia. And I also have a website, which is my first name and my last name together. So Joanna Kujawa, Kujawa.com, which I have information about some of my courses and about this book, but also another book for people who are interested in the divine feminine, the other goddess, Mary Magdalene, and the goddesses of Eros and secret knowledge, where I also discuss in different ways the divine feminine and the consciousness it is representing.
Well, I will be sure to put all those links in the show notes. How fascinating. It just like kind of opened a little door. I wasn't quite sure, but wow, I see where that opening is. So, as we go to close and just kind of come back around, I would like to ask you to leave our listeners with an uplifting thought on how you feel that working with this alien goddess energy right now can help to empower the spirit.
Well, I think that all the esoteric sources, all mythologies or sacred sources tell us to turn within. And I think that we have to meditate on this divine feminine energy ourselves, remembering that the truth of all spiritual truth is within us, and that we are the portal to the cosmos, to the universe. Humanity is a very important doorway for connecting the divine and the nature and all nature together. So this is a form of ascension. And in the book, for people who want to read it, I believe that in the Gospel of Mary Magdalene, she gives 4 levels of ascension and she actually gives us the tools. So I would like people to experiment with this. And just very briefly, how do we do this? I'm not going to explain the tools, but we have to be very mindful as we make any decision in our lives and ask ourselves from which level of consciousness I'm making this choice. And I believe that ascension is an inner job. So this is my final thought that the truth, final truth is always within.
I agree. It is within us. I agree. Yeah, beautiful point to come forward for sure. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for your work and again for opening up that door for so many of us. Yes, to your
Thank you,
spirit.
Terri, and thank you for connecting me with others.
Yes, thank you. What a journey this has been. From the potential dangers of AI and the ideologies that seek to diminish our humanity to the reawakening of the divine feminine through the alien goddess consciousness. Joanna has given us so much to reflect on: the necessity of balancing our logical, technological-driven world with intuitive, nature-connected wisdom, and the absolute importance of holding on to our spiritual sovereignty in an age of digital gods. As we move forward, let's carry with us her call for discernment. Let's engage with technology as a tool, but never surrender our power to it. Remember that you are the portal to the cosmos, and the path to ascension is an inner journey. To dive deeper into this fascinating work, be sure to pick up Joanna's book, Alien Goddess, UFOs, AI, and the Goddesses of Ascension, available online and in bookstores. You can also connect with her and explore her courses at her website. We'll have links to everything in the show notes. So a huge shout out once again to Joanna for joining us today and opening our minds to such a critical and expansive conversation. Thank you for tuning in to the Empowered Spirit Show. May you continue to seek the wisdom within and navigate your life with an empowered and discerning spirit. Be sure to check out my website for all my upcoming events, including my past, present, future, the Akashic Timeline Healing Method for Breaking Patterns, beginning in January. Join now and receive a bonus teachings on guides, guardians, angels, and even our galactic guides and angels. Thanks again for listening. I am your host, Terri Ann Heiman, to your spirit. Namaste. Hey, Birmingham folks, join me for some local events coming up this December. First, on December 6th at the Cha House, come join Alicia Strathers and I for a Reiki knitting event. Gather in sacred silence to weave warmth and Reiki into scarves. It will be a circle of compassion, intention, and quiet transformation. We will be infusing Reiki as we knit scarves for the homeless, threaded with intention. Wrapped in compassion, stitch by stitch, we shift the world. Materials provided or bring your own. Donations are warmly welcomed. And one more, a winter solstice celebration Saturday, December 20th at the Yoga Circle, a crystal color light and sound experience. Embrace the stillness of the longest night and celebrate the return of the light. Join us for a deeply restorative winter solstice celebration. This unique class combines the healing power of crystals, the vibrational energy of color, and the soothing harmony of sound to guide you into a state of profound relaxation. For more information, be sure to check out my website under events, and I will be sure to put the links in the show notes. Happy holidays.